I was 11 years old when I started playing the drums.
Wow.
And it all started from a neighbor who his brother had a drum set in the basement. And one day I went over to the neighbor's house to just see if he wanted to play. It was a friend of mine, and I hear these drums going in the basement. I'm like, man, what's going on down there? You know, that sounds pretty cool. So I had to go investigate, and I went down there and checked it out, and I was like
hooked.
Just in hog's heaven, and had to have a drum set, had to play. Begged my parents. They got me the cheapest, department store drum set they could find, and but it started me on something. And
you set them up in the room or in the garage?
In the bedroom, just the worst place to set them up, but it was all I had. And anyway, long story short, that evolved into actually learning to play the drums, but I never really thought I would make a career out of it or really pursue it. It was fun. It was something fun to do, and high school bands, were fun to play in. But at the age of 18, I met Mac and Mark, who are, Mac's our singer, Mark plays guitar, and I already knew Ty, our bass player, and so we kind of linked up, and sort of the rest is history.
You were drumming at a young age. Were you drumming to like some old Striper stuff, or were you drumming to like some Ozzy? Or
no, it was definitely a hodgepodge of top 40. My father was in top 40 radio for 20 years here in Atlanta, and on the morning show and everything, and so he would bring home all kinds of music, the Police, and
Sweet.
a lot of that stuff in the 80s,
right.
Huey Lewis and the News and all that, and so I kind of grew up on that kind of music, and U2, and I ventured off into a little bit more of a hardcore heavy metal territory in high school for a bit, and then when I came to know the Lord, that kind of went away, and I began pursuing music that glorified Him and brought just that spoke of His name and of who He is.
Sweet. So when would you say that you came to know the Lord?
I was about 14 years old.
Okay.
Just on a retreat with a church that I'd been invited to go on a retreat, a youth retreat. And that's it was just a very simple kind of pray this prayer, and
Wow.
I didn't know what it meant, but I meant it.
Mm-hmm.
I meant it as much as I knew how to at the age of 14, and I believe that God really set me on a course at that point. It wasn't a overnight change.
Sure.
I went back to some of my old ways, but I still believe there was a foundation being laid, and God's slow handiwork was being accomplished.
That's awesome. So would you say that was kind of like your start, and then you came to know or have a relationship with God maybe later in your teens, or maybe after school? Or
Yeah, well, I think like so many young people in our culture and older people in our culture, in America, we don't have a lot of reason to have faith sometimes. And that may sound cynical or jaded, or maybe it sounds untrue, but what I mean by that is I think we've got it pretty good in this country, most of us. Even those of us who are maybe on the lower income level, sometimes we have it a lot better than we realize when you compare it to the rest of the world. So
Right.
Our faith isn't challenged as much. And when I was 14 in a middle class home, I didn't have a lot of reason to like hang on to faith and hope. But so early on, I didn't know what to do with my faith. And then as I got a little older, about a year later, I went on a mission trip to Mexico and saw people who were truly in need of faith, who really, we all do need it, but you know what I'm saying, people who really were hanging on to it, and was around a culture of that for a few weeks, and it really was appealing to me. I just thought, man, God, I am hungry for you. I want to understand the depth of who you are and what you want to accomplish in my life, I began to feel a deeper hunger for Christ, and that was a really special time for me at about the age of 15, 16 years old.
Wow. Well, it definitely comes out in your music. I mean, when you listen to Third Day, we can tell that every single one of you guys have a relationship with Christ, and it definitely shows in your music.
Good. Well, that's
hey, so when did the band kind of form?
1992 is when I joined the band. Mac and Mark had been together for about a year before that, under the name Third Day, but myself and the bass player Ty Anderson, we joined in late '92.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you guys have been kicking for how long now?
Almost 16 years. Yes. That blows my mind to even say that, but
makes you feel old a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting to that point now where I'm saying I feel old.
You guys think you'll still be on stage like the Stones when you're in your 60s?
I don't know, man. It's I don't think any of us thought we'd be going this long with it. And,
really? Tell me a little bit about Revive. They're getting ready to hit it in about a minute, so.
Well, Revive is a band that we met in Australia a year and a half ago. We were touring down there, and they were the opening act. And a lot of times when we do overseas touring or just spot dates around the U.S., we'll have an opening band, and we don't really know who they are. It's just the promoter might have booked them, and it's usually kind of random. But we got a chance to hang out with these guys a little bit, and it's kind of funny. Our singer Mac said, "Hey, if there's anything we could ever do for you guys, just don't hesitate to call or whatever." So they didn't hesitate to call.
Sweet. So your album release is July the 29th?
July 29th.
July 29th.
Yeah.
And you
finally
guys,
getting here.
You guys are going to be on The Tonight Show, aren't you?
Yes, that's just been confirmed a few weeks ago. So we'll be
cool.
Kicking it there.
We can tune in for that. That'll be nice.
A little bit more of a nervous gig, but I think it's pre-recorded or something, so we should be all right.
Sweet. Well, tell me about your new album. You guys are getting ready to launch out this new album called Revelation. Is that like the book of the Bible? Or?
Well, it's good that you asked that. Revelation, obviously, when you say that word, it brings up a lot of images. Is this about end times prophecy, or is it about the last book of the Bible, or is it about third days received some revelation and they're ready to deliver it to the world? But it's really not any of those. It's about a cry for revelation, a cry to the Father, saying, God, we need revelation. Like constantly, we need you to reveal yourself and your plan and your purpose in our lives, and it's sort of a cry of being hungry for that. And
wow.
And our last album was called Wherever You Are, and it had more of a relational tone to it, sort of like a friend to a friend, or a loved one to another loved one, saying, hey, just hang on. There's a light at the end of this tunnel, and cry out to Jesus, and there's hope. And it had a lot of that sort of undertone to it. Revelation is a little more of a conversation between us and God. It's us saying, God, do you know who I am? And here's my identity as I see it, but how do you see it? And then, God, I need you, and I need revelation. And then it's God saying, hey, call my name. I'm there for you. And it's sort of this interaction between us and God. And that may not be on every single song, but there is sort of a theme throughout. And so we felt like Revelation, there is a song called Revelation, but we felt like that really encompassed the heart of the album.
Well, Dave, I always try to ask folks when I have them on, obviously you're living the Christian life and you kind of have a neat life. You're in a rock band and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, what does Christian living mean to you?
That's a great question. I mean, I'll tell you this. Christian living, as I've seen it in the past 3 or 4 years of my life, as I've gotten a little older and raising kids and all the challenges that come with that, I've realized that it is not a 60-day journey to a better place, or a 90 days or 40. There's so many books and series that are done about if you do 6 weeks of this or 10 days of that or whatever, you'll get to this place. And they're all well-meaning, and I get what they're saying. But for me, I've just stepped back and said, wow, this is a lifelong journey. The Christian life it's 28,000 days or whatever the average lifespan is of a journey with God. And it has its ups and its downs, and it has valleys that are so deep that we don't even feel like we're making any progress or that we're even walking with Christ. And then it has mountains that are so high that we feel like we could never fall.
Right.
And I've just learned that God, we have to trust that the work of God is happening in us. He that began a good work in us is going to be faithful to complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. And that's a hard road to walk sometimes, but we just have to trust and believe and know that His timing is perfect. And so that to me is kind of what Christian living is in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah, I know you guys are kicking off the Music Builds tour, and you're actually going to be playing here in Atlanta on September 20th at Lakewood.
Yes, correct.
So